Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I hope, inshallah, all of you guys are doing well. I'd like to welcome you all to tonight's halaqah. This is a series of halaqahs, inshallah, we're going to be doing for ICNA Sacramento. And I'd really appreciate thanking the sponsors tonight as well. So, ICNA Sacramento, as well as Helping Hands for Relief and Development. You could go to their website at hhrd.org, inshallah, to find out more information. I wanted to start out by introducing Sheikh Mateen Peracha from Michigan. He was born and raised in the Detroit area, went to Wayne State University, and after completing his studies and studying computer science, he went to Medina University for several years. When he came back to the U.S., he was an imam in Bloomington, Illinois, for 4 years, and then he taught English back in Medina again and was studying with the ulama there for another few years in Jamia Islamiyya in Medina University. He's currently teaching at Michigan Islamic Academy, MIA, in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and he teaches Islamic studies and Quran. Without taking any more of your time, inshallah, if you guys could give him your full attention. Jazakumullah khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. Jazakallah khair for everyone who's attending, and I'd like to thank everyone who put their efforts. May Allah accept your efforts for putting this together. Barakallah feekum, inshallah. So today's topic that I was given was something to do with basically reaching our peak and balancing our deen, our work, and our family. And this is something that's very important for all of us. We see that every day that passes, people are becoming busier, and people have a lot of stuff that they want to get done, but they feel they don't have enough time to get it done. So that's something that we can, inshallah, try to hopefully we're going to work on, inshallah, and learn about today. Let me see if I can get this bigger. Is that better, Wasim?
I think it's good, inshallah. I think you could go ahead and start.
Okay, Jazakallah khair. Okay, so first of all, I'd like to begin this talk, inshallah, with the surah from Quran. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. So this is one of those surahs that are found in the 30th juz of the Quran. It's a very small surah, one of the smallest surahs of the Quran, only 3 ayat, and the message is clear. The message is huge, it's enormous. And for example, Imam Shafi rahimahullah, he would say about the surah that if this was something that it's enough for the Muslims to only ponder over this surah of the Quran, it would be enough for them. And again, before I go on, the meaning of the surah, by the passage of time. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is swearing an oath. And whenever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala swears, takes an oath, He takes it with something that's very important. Okay, so here we have by the passage of time, wal asr, innal insan lafi khusr, that surely humanity or the human is in grave loss, except illa alladhina amanu, except those who have faith, those who believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and wa'amilu salihat, those who do the good deeds, and the ones who urge each other to the truth, and those who urge each other to perseverance. So this is a surah of the Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is swearing by time itself. So we know that the time itself is the asr, the time is something that's fleeting. It's something that's passing us by. It's something that we cannot stop. We cannot pause, put on a remote, put pause and and go and take care of other things. Time will pass us by. Either you use it or you lose it, basically. And one of the things about this is that this is the salvation of us in this life and the hereafter. That if we do stick to these four things, inshallah. And going back to time itself, time itself is actually a creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has control over this creation. And we know that on the day of judgment, when the people of hellfire will be in hellfire, the people of heaven will be in heaven. Shall Allah make us from the people of heaven. When everyone goes to their places, a ram will be brought forth and it will be sacrificed in front of everyone. And they will be asked, do you know what this was? People will say, no, we don't know what it is. The angel will say that this was time. This was time. So the creation of time is being sacrificed to show there is no more time. The people in hellfire will be in hellfire forever, and the people in Jannah will be in Jannah forever, and there's no going back. There's no going back to remorse over what you missed and the time that you wasted in the world. But basically, whatever you sent forth, that's what you are gonna go and meet in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In this hadith, if you look at the next, sorry, let me get to the next one. If you look at this hadith right here, عن أبي مالك الحارث ibn عاصم الأشعري رضي الله عنه. And this is not Abu Musa al-Ash'ari rahimahullah رضي الله عنه. This is actually, you could say, one of the same tribesmen, but it's not the same Sahabi. قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم كل الناس يغدو فبائع نفسه فمعتقها أو موبقها. The Prophet, and this is related in Sahih Muslim, the Prophet says, when a person wakes up in the morning, he invests his soul or life in a business enterprise. Some of the investors free or save the capital from loss, and others destroy that capital. So this is something like every single day, basically, we go into a business transaction. We go into a business where we are either gonna free or save, keep that capital and invest it into something that's worthwhile for us and will benefit us, or we will destroy that capital. And this is like the example, if you had like a block of ice, okay, on a hot summer day, and you're sitting there with this block of ice, now it's melting away. There's no way you can stop that ice from melting away. Now it's up to you to use it in the right way. You can, I don't know, make some milkshakes. You can, make some ice cream, those, I don't know what they call it, but you put some, like Pepsi on it or something, and you can, you sell it as ice cream, whatever you do with it. But you have to use that. Actually, another better example is that imagine if someone is given $86,400 into deposit into their bank account every single day. Now the condition is that money that is deposited, it's for you to use. You can use it whatever way you want to use it. But the thing is that by nightfall, when it comes to 11:59 p.m. and then 12 a.m., that basically that bank account, that balance goes back to zero, and you have no money left. So that money cannot roll over into the next day. Now, just imagine how careful you would be, that you wouldn't want any of that money to waste. You'd be like, spending that money here, investing here, giving sadaqah there, helping people here. You would do whatever you can to use that money so that it doesn't go to waste. In the same way, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us 86,400 seconds in a day. And it's up to us now. Now, what are we gonna do with that money? Are we gonna with that time? Are we gonna let that time go to waste? Are we just gonna sleep all day? Are we gonna get it to use, put it to use for us, for ourselves and our salvation in the akhirah? What are we gonna do with that money? And another quote here, this is Hassan al-Basri rahimahullah. He says, Yabna Adam innama anta ayyam. That, oh, the son of Adam, meaning every human being, every son and daughter of Adam alayhi salam, the human race, innama anta ayyam. That you are verily made up of days. You are nothing but a number of days. Okay, and he says that whenever kullama dhahaba yawmun, so whenever a day passes, dhahaba ba'duk, that a piece of you passes away. A part of you has gone away, and it's never to come back. So this is a very important, a quote by one of the famous scholars, Hassan al-Basri rahimahullah, and this is again reminding us that every single second that passes away, every single hour, minute, hour, day that passes away, this is part of us. We can never get that back. There is no time machine. No matter how much the movies and all that stuff they make up these time machines, there is no way you can go back. And the one thing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has taught us in the Quran, and the one thing that the Prophet tells us in the hadith over and over again, that excuse me, that when a person dies and they go on to see what is waiting for them in the akhirah, even if they are a good person, okay, evil person, evil people, okay, that's for sure. They're going to be regretting whatever they did, and they're going to be asking Allah subhanahu, oh Allah, send me back. Please send me back. Let me go back. Let me fix myself. Let me do your ibadah. Let me go and give sadaqah. Let me go and help the sick. Let me go help the poor. Let me go do this. Let me go that. Even the good people, the people who will be going to Jannah, what will they do? They'll also be in regret. And the regret that they'll have is that, oh Allah, I wish that I had spent my time better. I wish I would have done more adhkar. I wish I would have done, more ibadah. I wish I would have done more qiyamul layl. This is even a good person will be having that regret. Now, one question I want to ask you guys, okay? If you want something done, would you go to a busy person to ask them, or would you go to a person who is free, someone who has free time, and he looks like he's not busy, or she looks like which one would you go to? Can you guys? Is this interactive? I don't know if I can. Can I hear you guys?
You won't be able to hear them, but I've asked them to put it on the comment section so they
Okay.
could put comments there, inshallah.
Okay, inshallah. Jazakallah khair. Yeah, so in the comment box, please, or in the chat box, whatever you want to call it, if you want to put your answers, what do you guys think? Would you go to a person who has free time, or would you go to someone who is busy? What do you guys think? Okay, Wasim says free time. Okay, Naveed, brother Naveed says go to a person who's busy. MashaAllah. Okay, Barakallah feek. Anybody else have anything else to say? So brother Naveed was actually right. Okay, so if you look at the next slide right here, if you want something done, ask a busy person. Okay, this is Benjamin Franklin. He said this, and this is one of the things that normally we think, like, why would you go to a busy person? What does that mean? A busy person is busy. How can he get my stuff done, whatever it is to be done? Go to someone who's free. He has free time. They can do it. But actually, the how true this statement is that the busier we are means that the best we are at managing our time. Just like Brother Naveed said, that the busier we are, the better we are at managing our time. So we see that busy people, they tend to get more done in a day because they don't waste time. They know how to schedule their time. They know how to manage their time in such a way that they are always busy. They're always doing something. It doesn't mean that they're wasting their time. No, they're actually getting more done. And you'll see that people who are busy, they're the ones who are you'll see them going on vacations. They'll be traveling, they're going biking, they're going walking on hikes, they're doing all kinds of stuff that we would only dream of, but they're doing this and they're getting even more done. Why? Because they are balancing their time. They're able to manage their time in the right way, and they basically they're taking advantage of every single moment that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given them, and considering this time as a precious commodity, like the hadith, like a precious, a business, and you're basically spending that time as best as you can, as best as possible. Now, if you look here, this is a picture of a ribbon. I know it's not really, maybe it looks like a hairband or whatever, but It's supposed to be a rubber band. So basically, we know, what do we know about rubber bands? That we rubber bands are basically, they have elasticity. Okay, you can pull it, you can extend it and whatnot. And one of the things that you look at, every single person, and myself included, we always complain. One common complaint that you hear from everyone is that I don't have time. I'm too busy. I have too much stuff on my plate. Okay, we're always complaining that we don't have enough time to do things, but in fact, we actually have become spoiled because of all the free time that we have. All the free time that we have is actually causing us to become spoiled, and we're not, and that's why we're complaining that we have no time. And it's basically, life is like a rubber band. When you stretch it, it becomes bigger, it becomes longer, and the more you can use that rubber band, the more you can fit inside. If you're using it to bind some books, you're using it to bind something together, the more you stretch it, the more things you can fit into it, the more you can you put it to use. So the more you use your time, the longer it will get, and you can do all your activities and everything in that time. So this is very important to understand, that you know a rubber band in the normal state, it's just what it is. It has a comfort zone, you could say, just like we all have comfort zones. But if we stretch ourselves and we stretch our time, put more and more stuff and schedule more stuff on our plate, you'll see that when you start doing those actions, when you start doing that, you'll find out that you can do more in a shorter amount of time, because you actually had that time, you just weren't putting it to good use. In this hadith here, the Prophet ﷺ, is saying, actually, before I get to this hadith, I want to mention something, that the Prophet ﷺ, we know that he's a beautiful example, uswatun hasana, for everyone. And this speech is talking, this lecture is about balancing our deen and our work and our family life and everything, balancing everything together. So one thing we know is that the Prophet ﷺ taught us great lessons throughout his life. He's a beautiful example for us. And we know there's a famous hadith of Hanzala radhiallahu anh. And Hanzala radhiallahu anh was one of the Sahaba. One day he was walking in Medina, in the streets of Medina Munawwara, and he came upon Abu Bakr Siddiq radhiallahu anh, who asked him. He saw his look of worry on his face. So he says to Hanzala, what's up? What's wrong? What's going on? I see you worried. And Hanzala radhiallahu anh responds by saying, Nafaqa Hanzala. He says that I have become a munafiq. Now, Abu Bakr radhiallahu anh became worried. He's like, what are you saying? How could you become munafiq? Why did you say this? He says that when I'm with the Prophet ﷺ and sitting in the masjid, I feel like my iman is going up, and I'm at this iman high. But then when I go home and I'm playing with my family, and I'm sitting with my family, I feel like my iman level has gone down. So I feel like I feel like I'm two-faced. Abu Bakr radhiallahu anh became worried. He said, you know what? I feel the same. I go experience the same thing that you're saying. So he says that Hanzala and Abu Bakr Siddiq radhiallahu anhuma, both of them go straight to the Prophet ﷺ to ask, to inquire from the Prophet ﷺ, are we munafiq because we're experiencing this? And the Prophet ﷺ said to them that if you were to stay in that state, so when you're with the Prophet ﷺ, if you were to stay in that state that you are when you're with the Prophet ﷺ, when you're with me, basically, when he said that, then go home to your families and you have that same level of iman, the angels would descend and they would come to the streets, they would come to the marketplaces, they would come to the masajid, they'd come to your homes, they come to your rooms, and they would want to do musafa. They would come and shake your hands out of joy of meeting, like a person goes to meet a celebrity. In the same way the person would go, the angels will come and they'll meet that person. So the Prophet after that, he says sa'atan fa sa'a, meaning there's an hour for this and there's an hour, meaning there's a time for work and then there's a time for play. So that's the one thing about balancing everything, is going to the Sunnah of the Prophet. How can a person balance themselves like the Prophet did? And we see that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, for example, again, being the best of fathers, being the best of husbands, being the best of grandfathers. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there's a hadith in Sahih Muslim, I believe, that he was with Abu Hurairah, the one narrating the hadith. He says that I was with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they went to the souk, and then after that they came to the courtyard of the house of Fatima radiallahu anha, and the Prophet he starts calling out. He says, "Aina luka, aina luka." He says, "Sorry, athamma luka, athamma luka." Is that mischievous boy there? So in a jokingly way, where is that mischievous boy? And Abu Hurairah, he says that Fatima kept Hassan for a while. So we were thinking that he's probably taking a bath. He's gonna put on some nice clean clothes, put on some attar, some nice fragrance, and comb his hair and stuff. And then after that was what happened. He came out running and straight to the Prophet, and the Prophet picked him up and he hugged him, and he says that, "Oh Allah, I love him. Inni la ahibbu." That, "Oh Allah, I love him. Fa ahibba." So you also love him. And then the Prophet says, "And love the one who loves him." So we see how much the Prophet, and also we know the famous hadith where he would go down on all fours and he would act like a horse for his grandsons. His grandsons would go on his back and he would be going around the living room like acting like a horse. So we see how much the Prophet ﷺ did that, and he was a statesman. He was the general of the army. He was the mufti of the masjid. He was the imam of the masjid. He was a husband. He was a father. He was doing all these things, and he still had time for more. He still had time to sit with the Sahaba, and also to add to that, that the Sahaba, you guys know the famous hadith of uh, Abdullah bin Amr, Abdullah bin Amr ibn As radiallahu anh. He says that one day I came to the Prophet ﷺ and I said, "Man ahabbun nas ilayk," that who is the most beloved of all the people to you? And the Prophet ﷺ responds by saying that Aisha radiallahu anha. So Abdullah bin Amr radiallahu anh, he says that I thought that okay, so that's from the women. He said, "Okay, what about the mina rijal? What about from the men?" And then the Prophet says, "Abuha," that her father, meaning Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anh. Then he says, "Thumma man," so he says Umar radiallahu anh. Then "Thumma man," so he asked a few times, and different Sahaba's names were being called. And then he said, "I gave up asking because I thought my name would never come." So and the ulama talking about this hadith, the explanation of this hadith, they say that the Prophet ﷺ would give every Sahabi their time. He would give them so much attention, so much time, that every single Sahabi thought that they were the best or the most beloved to the Prophet ﷺ. And you can just imagine towards the end of the Prophet ﷺ life, there was approximately 124,000 Sahaba. Imagine how much the Prophet ﷺ, he's giving everybody their time. So going back, I was saying that based on the model of the Prophet ﷺ, and we're talking about the rubber band theory again. Okay, the more you expand it, the more it works for you. The more you can fit into it. There's a famous tabi by the name of Sa'id ibn Musayyib, rahimahullah. He was a businessman, so he had I think it was like olive business or something. He had olive business, so he was a businessman, and he was what's it called? He would be doing his business. He would be doing his worship. He had family. He was married. He had kids, and also we know about him that 20 years passed. He never missed tahiyatul. Sorry, the takbir al-ula. He never missed his first takbir of the salah. 20 years, and he never missed his first takbir al-ula. So just imagine, someone who has all those responsibilities and he's still going to the masjid. So this goes back to the current hadith, that if we put remember again, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the owner and the creator of all things. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the controller of all things. Time itself is one of the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has full control over that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can put barakah in our time. And how do we get that barakah? By going to the Sunnah of the Prophet, following the Sunnah of the Prophet, and living our lives according to the Sunnah. If we do that, then we will see the barakah in our life. So going back to this hadith right here, this is read by Ibn Majah rahimahullah, from the Sahabi Zayd ibn Thabit رضي الله عنه. سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول من كانت الدنيا همه. So whoever is focused only on this world, meaning his only fikr, his only focus is this world, this temporary world. فرق الله عليه أمره. So then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will confound his affairs, will make everything hard for him. وَجَعَلَ فَقْرَهُ بَيْنَ عَيْنَيْهِ, and make him fear poverty all the time. He's all constantly in fear of poverty. وَلَمْ يَأْتِهِ مِنَ الدُّنْيَا إِلَّا مَا كُتِبَ لَهُ, and only that which is written for him or ordained for him will come to him. And on the other hand, whoever is focused on the hereafter, whoever has the hereafter in their sights, is and is trying to attain the hereafter and trying to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will grant him peace of mind and make him feel content with his lot, and his provision and worldly gains will come to him regardless of circumstances, obstacles, or people. So this is a very strong hadith, very beautiful hadith, and this tells us, that if we have our focus on this dunya and this dunya alone, and that's all we're worried about, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will teach us a lesson. All our actions, all our affairs, everything that we're involved in will become even more difficult for us, and only that which is written for us will come to us anyway. So the risk is written, it's already written, and whatever is going to come to us, that's going to come to us. And the example I want to give is, if you look here on this picture, you can see this chicken or hen, or I don't know what you want to call it, but it's basically a chicken feed here. And the example is that if a farmer, for example, every day he comes out with a bucket of feed, he puts it into the feeder, I guess you call it the feeder. Okay, he puts it into the feeder, and then the chicken come and they eat from this feeder. Okay, now this happens every day, but one day this farmer decides to, this chicken's getting lazy. It just comes here and eats, and then it goes and sleeps on the side. It's not really doing anything. I need it to do some movement. It has to go around. So he grabs that same bucket, and instead of putting it into the feeder, now he takes it and he spreads it out into the field, spreads it out into the grass, into the field. Now that chicken will have to go and one by one pick up the feed, the seeds or whatever that's eating. It has to go and pick that up one by one, and it'll take from morning to evening, finding all that food and eating that food, the same food that it was taking him only a few minutes to eat, or whatever time to eat, and it was put in one place. So this is the example of the hadith that we just talked about, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if we have our Hamm al-akhirah, if we worry about the akhirah, we worry about the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if our salawat are in check, if we have our mu'amalat in check, meaning that whatever rights are upon us, we're taking care of everyone, we're following the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. If we do that, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will put our feed together in one place, and it will become easier for us to get at. Otherwise, if we just care about this dunya and we're just hankering after the dunya, then it will be like our food has been thrown out on the field, and then we'll take the whole day to try to go and get that back. Move on to the next one. Okay, so now some points how to get our needs taken care of. So one of the hadith right here, for example, this is Sahih hadith. The Prophet ﷺ that tells us that this is actually the hadith of Abu Darda, and his wife is relating the hadith from her husband. Okay, and that also teaches us a great lesson, that when you learn something, for example, this presentation, inshallah, if anything was of benefit, then inshallah share it with your family. So Abu Darda, he taught his wife this dua. He taught his wife Darda this dua, and she's relating this, and she says that the Prophet ﷺ said, if anyone says 7 times morning and evening, okay, Hasbi Allah, La ilaha illahu, alayhi tawakkalt, wa huwa rabbul arshil azim. So the meaning of this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is sufficient for me. There's no God but He. On Him is my trust. He, the Lord of the throne of glory, supreme. So whoever says this, okay, 7 times in the morning, 7 times in the evening, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will take care of whatever that person, anything that the person is, whatever problems that person has, and whatever that person desires in this life and the hereafter will be taken care of by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Another hadith, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was approached by a Sahabi by the name of Zayd ibn Ubay ibn Ka'b radhiyallahu anh. So Ubay ibn Ka'b radhiyallahu anh, he goes to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and he says that inni ukthiru salata alayk, that I send a lot of salutations and salam upon you, meaning upon the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he says that what if I make like, what would you say if I make 1/4 of my time to do salawat, to send salawat on you? And the Prophet ﷺ says that that's fine, that's good, but if you want to increase it, that would be better for you. So then Ubay Radhan says, what about half? And the Prophet ﷺ responded the same way, that's good, whatever you wish, but if you would do more, it's better for you. Then he said, what about 2/3? The Prophet ﷺ responded the same way. And then he said, what if I devote all my time of dhikr and adhkar in sending salawat on you? And the Prophet ﷺ responded by saying that idhan tukfa hammuk, that then you will be freed from care, meaning everything that you need, what your needs will be taken care of, and your sins will be expiated, or your sins will be forgiven. So again, sending ikthar of salawat on the Prophet ﷺ, this also puts barakah in our time. So when we're working or when we're doing some activity, start saying salawat, and you'll see the barakah come in your time. Another thing, before I get to that, there's a famous hadith of Tasbih Fatima radiallahu anha, when she was working all day, taking care of her family, and she needed help. So she goes to the Prophet ﷺ to request a slave, and the Prophet ﷺ was not home at that time. Then later on, he comes and he goes to her house and he asks her, "What's what did you need? Everything okay?" And she tells of her problem, and the Prophet ﷺ says, "What if I tell you something?" He gave her a choice. He said that, "What if either I can teach you something, I can give you a slave, or I can teach you something that would be better than a slave." Now, Fatima Radhan, being the daughter of the Prophet ﷺ, she said that whatever the Prophet ﷺ is going to teach me, that's going to be better than even having a slave. So she chose that. And the Prophet ﷺ said that before you sleep, say Subhanallah 33 times, say Alhamdulillah 33 times, say Allahu Akbar 33 times, and then La ilaha illallah 1 time. And basically, when you do that before you sleep, that will help you in your daily activities. You'll feel more strength. You'll feel like you won't be lazy. You'll be able to wake up the next morning, and you will have more barakah, inshallah, in your life. Now, one of the other things that we can do, and I should have put this earlier, but to-do list. Okay, this is very important that we make a to-do list, and that's because you can just like imagine someone bringing groceries home, okay, or something, carrying books or something, carrying something, and if the more someone takes off a load to help you, the more relief you feel, and psychologically, it feels great when a burden is lifted. So if you make a to-do list and you prioritize, and for example, you can even sometimes go the easy, quick stuff that you can do, and it can be done quicker. Get those out of the way, so you check it off, and you'll feel that you'll feel when you check something off the list, it will give you a sense of accomplishment, and it'll motivate you to keep on going, keep on finishing the next and the next and the next, and especially when you finish the whole the list, then you can relax. You can like, okay, alhamdulillah, I got everything done. So this is something very, very important to do. Uh, One last thing I want to talk about, inshallah, and before we end, the importance of keeping silent. Okay, this is very, very important, and we a lot of times we overlook this. And we know that the Prophet ﷺ in the hadith, he says, استعينوا على قضاء حوائجكم بالكتمان فإن كل ذي نعمة محسود أو كما قال صلى الله عليه وسلم. So this hadith is related by Mu'adh bin Jabal and other Sahaba. They say that the Prophet ﷺ said, seek help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in having your needs met, or being complete, or completed or met, by being discreet. For everyone who is blessed with something is envied. So this is something that we have to be very careful of. Is that a lot of times we have this need or this want to announce our successes, to announce our achievements to the people. And especially now with because in the past they didn't have internet, they didn't have this kind of stuff, but now with Facebook, with Twitter, with the gram, we have this urge that whenever we do something, we want to take a selfie, we want to promote ourselves and announce to the world that we did such and such. And the thing is that the problem is that we're bringing the evil eye upon us. Putting the people's eyes. Yes, the people are looking at us, and they are starting to look up to us and say, look, this guy, he did this. But many people do not say MashaAllah. So that's one of the issues that we have. That people, when they don't say MashaAllah, Tabarakallah, the evil eye can be put on someone. So we need to be careful in not announcing our achievements. It's not necessary that we have to tell everyone everything that we're doing, but be discreet about it. And only trust only those who you love, those who that you trust. You can tell them what you're going to do or what you're planning, and then inshallah Allah, and you put your tawakkul on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will help you in that, inshallah. So this is very important, inshallah. Last point I want to make. Any questions? Can we move on to questions? I know I did go over the time a little bit.
We have about just a few minutes left, so if anyone would like to ask any questions, they could post them on the chat and we could answer them live. So if you have any at all, we'll give it maybe a minute or two for that. Just one question I actually had was the rubber band example that you gave. It's an excellent example, but what if we're stretching ourselves so much that it snaps, or we snap? What advice would you give to how would we limit our activities, I guess, so that doesn't happen?
Jazakallah khair. So excellent question. So that's always why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put us in ummatun wasata, that we're always taking the middle path. We always know when to stop. So a person who is managing their time, they know what they can handle. And the thing is, the better you get at it, the more you stretch, and the more you stretch a rubber band, the more you feel its elasticity getting weaker, right? So when you get it, and just before it's about to break, you can feel it that it's about to break. So this, in the same way, the better you get at managing your time, the better you get to know yourself, what you can handle and what you can't handle. That's what it is. Basically, you have to put yourself, you have to stop yourself when you feel that it's the right time to stop yourself.
Jazakumullah khair. And there's a question by Brother Naveed, practical steps to balance between our busiest life and our religious affairs. So, especially in the U.S., maybe all over the world, but we're just living in a time that it gets extremely busy, and we're so involved in the dunya that we sometimes forget our basic religious obligations. So, the du'as you shared were excellent, mashallah, and they bring this sense of barakah in our time. However, what are some maybe more practical tips that we could do besides ones that are found in the Quran and Hadith? Of course, those are the ultimate ones and the best ones to do. However, what are some more practical things that we could do, inshallah? to
Okay.
balance.
Okay, inshallah, jazakallah khair. So one of the things that we know that, like those examples that I gave, uh, for example, the one about having the hamul akhirah, having the fikr of the akhirah. So one thing, going back to time itself, the $86,400. Okay, I'm gonna say dollars here, that we're sorry, put it into our bank accounts. That's something that everyone has. Everyone's getting the same exact amount, but we see that people who, for example, the closer they get to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts barakah, and that's what the barakah effect is. That basically, that same amount of time, okay, or that same amount of money, that same $100 that you get, if it's with barakah, it'll last you longer. That same minute, okay, it'll last longer if you are if you use it properly, basically, and if you take care of. So one example I want to give is, there's a famous thing. Actually, I should have included that. I had a funny cartoon for that. But there's they say that the length of a minute, it depends on which side of the door that you are standing on. So, for example, if a person is standing, someone has to use the bathroom really bad, okay, and someone is the bathroom is taken, then that person standing outside, that 1 minute will feel like an hour, okay, and the same, the person inside relaxing and maybe with a newspaper or whatever, that person, that same minute is gonna feel like 10 seconds. It won't know. So the theory of relativity, actually, I think it was Albert Einstein. There was a quote. He says something about uh I think he said, if you put your hand on the hot stove for 1 minute, it will feel like an hour or something. And if you sit with a beautiful woman, okay, for 1 hour, it'll feel like 1 minute. Something like that. He said. I forgot exact quote, but so basically, it's to do with relativity. Again, that barakah effect. If we put that barakah in our lives, inshallah, that same minute will stretch. That same minute, we'll find ourselves doing more in that 1 minute than someone else can do in the same amount of time. And again, going back, I know I'm not really going into practical steps, but that's why I'm saying that, stressing the importance of our connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For example, Imam Nawawi rahimahullah. You know, Imam Nawawi rahimahullah passed away at a young age, and the scholars have added up all the books that he wrote in his life. Okay, if Wasim, correct me if I'm wrong. It was at 40 years old he passed away, or was it less than that? Even less.
42, I believe, 42.
42. Okay, jazakallah khair. So 42 years of age, and they added up. They counted all the books that he wrote. Okay, and they said that it's impossible. It's impossible that a person wrote that many. I think it was like, they stretched it out. They said, if you take, not even from, puberty or when he became a scholar, but if you go from his day of birth to the day he died, it will come out to, like, I think, like 20 pages a day that he wrote. It was something like that. I forget exact numbers. I'll try to see if I can look that up, inshallah. But they say it's impossible for someone to do that. So again, the connection that someone has with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the person will feel the time. Again, time is relativity, the relative. They'll feel that time expand for them, and they'll be doing a lot more work in the same amount of time.
I just wanted to add, subhanallah, that there's, it's about putting the big rocks first. And there was this one example, and I guess we could end with that because our time is up, inshallah. But there's this example of where a professor, he has college students in front of him, and what he does is he puts in big rocks, and then he asks the class, is it full? Is the jar full? And some people say yes, it's full, and then he gets pebbles and he puts them in, and then he asks again, is it full? And he says, yeah, it's full. Then he puts in sand, and then he asks again, and then they say, no, it's not full. And then finally he says, yeah, right, and then he puts some water. And now he said, what does this mean? And one of the students said that it means that no matter how busy you are, you could always put more into your schedule. But he said, no, that's actually the opposite. He said that if you start with the big rocks, the most important things, then you'll be able to accomplish all of these things, inshallah, because you started with the right order. Because if you started with the water first, you wouldn't have been able to put anything else into the plate. And so there's one thing that you can look up. It's called the 4 quadrants of time management. It's our time's up, so I don't want to go into that right now. But it's basically about focusing on the important things that are not urgent. The second quadrant. And if you look it up on Google, you can find different images about time management, especially about the 4 quadrants. Really, really effective, really helpful. With that, I'd like to conclude. I really appreciate all those people who logged in to watch the lecture today. We had Sheikh Mateen. It's like 10:47 in Michigan right now. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward him and his family for doing sabr. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give barakah in his time, inshallah, and reward him and all the organizers and all the people who participated. جزاكم الله خيرا. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.